The Philadelphia Flyers are in the middle of their rebuild, I guess you could call it. They are a team that is drafting a lot, and they have added a lot of really impressive players. Matvei Michkov has graduated out of this database after a really strong rookie season, and I think there's a lot to like with a player like that. I think he's well on his way to a great career. But really, I do want to start in the core category. There's a couple of players in here that I just love. Jet Luchenko, while he didn't have the lights-out enormous production season that maybe people expected, his team wasn't very good, and I do feel like he was a huge part of the success that they did have. He is a slow burn type player. Really smart, really good skater, really effective player all around, and I think the upside in his game is enormous. It's also really important to remember just how young he is. If he were born a few weeks later, he would be eligible for this past year's draft, and I would probably have him ranked around the range where he got drafted by Philadelphia a couple years ago. So we'll see where things go with him this year. Guelph is likely to take a step forward with a lot of the youth that they have getting older as well, so hopefully the offensive firepower they have will naturally boost Luchenko's output, but I'm not concerned at all, and I still feel like he was a really good pickup where they got him. The other guy in here is Porter Martone, just a guy that I absolutely can see being a Philadelphia Flyer for a really long time. Really strong offensive forward. He's a winger, and yeah, maybe the defensive effort is not exactly what you want all the time, but he still plays a really good team-first, focused 200-foot game that I love. His one-touch playmaking in the offensive zone, he thinks really quickly on his feet. It's all really high-end stuff. He's a good scorer on his own as well. He had almost a 40% involvement percentage in his team's offense this year. A really dynamic offensive presence that I think needs the right combination of players around him to elevate him to what he's capable of, but they've got the parts to make it happen, and I will be very interested to see what happens with him over the next little while. In the depth category, there are 4 names here that I also just really like. Denver Barkey, I have been a huge fan of for a long time. He is a Philadelphia Flyer, rambunctious, annoying, but skilled, high pace, high energy. He just exudes a level of swagger that I just love to watch on the ice. I feel like in the NHL, he probably will be more of a top 9 complimentary, just jerk, but I love that about him, and I think he could be really good at it. I had him in the first round when he was drafted, and this is exactly why. Yes, he scores a lot, and yes, he's very skilled, but he brings a lot to the table in a variety of different areas, and I just feel like, considering he's been a captain with the London Knights for a while, there's a lot to love about him, and I feel like the Philadelphia Flyers and their fans, if they aren't already, will be really drawn to him and his potential, especially as this little scooty guy that's running around the ice, mixing things up while also playing with some skill. Oliver Bonk is a player that I've never been a huge fan of, and I wouldn't have drafted him where they took him, but I still see a depth player here somewhere. He's got some good defensive abilities. I think his skating has grown quite a lot over the last couple of seasons. He's really become a good northbound defenseman carrying the puck and such, but I do wonder about the footwork and the lateral mobility still being not quite enough to be a great NHL defenseman, but a solid one nonetheless, and I could see him chipping in the lineup, maybe not this season, but the year after, or maybe 2 years in the AHL. I've also thrown Carter Amico and Shane Vansagi in here. These are just guys that, if I had my way, I feel like would be the exact type of player the NHL is looking for these days. I couldn't believe how late these guys were available in the draft. When I went back and watched Carter Amico before he got injured this year, I wasn't huge on him at the beginning of the year, but there are a lot of great defensive tools there. Really good skater for his size, really physical, really smart hitter. He just knows how to line guys up and time things right and really make sure that he separates players from the puck, and there weren't a whole lot of defensemen this year who did that as well as he did. Vansagi just goes. He is a monster at his best, and he did not play a whole lot this year for Michigan State. I would expect that to change relatively quickly. That team is going to be gross this year, and I feel like he'll be a beneficiary of it. He's going to be an important role player, and I feel like as a bottom 6 NHLer, I can very easily see it, and he is the type of bottom 6 NHL role player that I would really want. I could be mistaken, but when he was drafted by Philadelphia, he was my best player available, and where they took him, you would not have to twist my arm at all to go with him, and I'm really happy he ended up in Philadelphia. I think Flyers are going to love him. I'm sure they'll have some kind of crazy nickname for him at some point if he works out, but at the very least, a really, really solid player that I love to see in this jersey. But that also leads into a lot of really intriguing maybe players. Alex Chirnik, Ilya Potov, Cole Knuble, Alexis Gendron, Jack Murtagh, Max Westergaard, Nathan Quinn. These are all guys with a lot of skill and a lot of upside. They have a lot of risk in their game. I do love Alex Chirnik, but he just hasn't quite taken that next step in his game, and he really needs to become a better Allsvenskan player in Sweden to really project to the NHL for me, and we'll see how this year goes for him, but I still love what he's capable of at his best. I've caught him here and there, and I still think there's a really good player there, but it always was about consistency and physical play and off-puck play in the defensive end that I think were things that he needed to work on, but at the end of the day, super talented group of players there. On the flip side of things, you've got guys like Jack Berglund, Devin Kaplan, Jack Nesbitt, Matthew Gard. Really big, strong players. Not sure these guys are more than third, fourth line NHL players, but they could be solid ones at that, and I feel like while they don't quite have the physical energy and the speed and the intensity of a guy like a Shane Vinsagi, they're not that far behind. I just wonder if they're going to stick in that role long-term relative to guys like Vinsagi, but there are probably going to be jobs open for these guys. I mean, they wouldn't have drafted Jack Nesbitt at 12 if they didn't really see him as an NHL player. We'll see how that one works out. I would disagree, but at the end of the day, all of these players together, there's something here that I think Flyers fans will love. So the Philadelphia Flyers are going to be another strong grade, and they get a 1C. I think all things considered, they've done a really good job adding a little bit of everything, like a few other teams we've covered already. They're not fully loaded with a ton of skill and not a whole lot of physicality. They're not fully loaded with big, strong dudes who are all bottom six projections that are fine. They're just a team that drafts a little bit of everything and does so in a good way, I think. They've got a lot of good skilled players. They've got a lot of good 200-foot players. They've got a lot of good physical, defensive-leaning guys. They've got a lot of nice big swings for the fences. They've got a lot of maybe safer picks, so to speak. At the end of the day, the Flyers have something here that should be able to round out their roster. I have a lot of high hopes for Luchenko. I have a lot of high hopes for Porter Martone. Martone probably would have been my guy or James Hagen's, but Martone absolutely fits the personality of what I would think a Flyer should play like, and I know that that matters to NHL teams, and I probably would feel the same way as well. But Bonk and Barkey and Amico and Vinsagi are all really entertaining players that I really like, and I think project to a pretty solid NHL role, and there's a lot of guys that play like those names that could develop further into players like that. I think they have 3 or 4 players in the maybes category that with a good season this season might take the step up into the depth category. I love Alexis Gendron so much, and he is getting a little bit older, but at the end of the day, he's a 20 goal scorer in the AHL last year, and for a 7th round draft pick, I think there's a lot of upside there, and I've really liked what I've seen of him with Lehigh Valley, and I'll be curious to see what he does this year. But all in all, a really good system here. Here and there, like many other teams, I might have done some things a little bit differently here and there, but all things being equal, really solid job, really good group of players, and I think the future for the Philadelphia Flyers is going to be pretty bright because they've got a little bit of everything, and they've got a little bit of everything in all the right ways, and hopefully that's a trend that continues into the future. And with that, we're going to call it. If you liked the video, definitely like and subscribe. If you really liked it, definitely consider a subscription over at Scouching.ca, where you can get access to all kinds of fun data tools on our Discord server and plenty of other fun stuff that you're just not going to find anywhere else on the internet. So check that out at Scouching.ca. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.